Hi, we are with Dr. Eva Pesiachovich. Thank you again for taking time off your day to speak to us about your research. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
One cool fact that we found out was that you can speak 5 languages. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Yes, so I began my nursing career back in 1999 after graduating from school of nursing, and began to work as a staff nurse in acute care settings. I began my teaching career shortly after as a community college instructor for a few years, and then entered the university stream after receiving my master's degree. From there, I pursued my PhD in education, and this is what I do today. I do my research is mainly in education, nursing education, and I enjoy both teaching and research as one informs the other, so that makes it meaningful in my context and in my practice.
So what inspires you? What gets you out of the bed in the morning?
What inspires me is creativity, innovation, the idea of being able to contribute to the bigger picture. What gets me out of bed each morning is what brings most value to my life. So my children, my family, my students, sunshine.
Thank you. Could you please tell us more about your path in nursing and research?
Yes. So my nursing career, or intermittently as I was doing my baccalaureate, I began working as a healthcare aide. So it was quite a long path to get to where I'm today. I graduated thereafter and secured a full-time job as a staff nurse, the cardiovascular and unit, and part-time telemetry and emerge settings. I'm mainly working in acute care settings. Shortly after I began my bedside nursing work, I started to precept students, which led me to my first teaching position at the community college, as I mentioned earlier. Then I enrolled into a master's program. After receiving the master's degree, I was hired at York University as a part-time instructor, and I was shortly after successful at securing a full-time position. While working full-time, I was also nursing at the bedside casually, part-time. The path to my research began as a research assistant while I was completing my master's degree. The teaching and lived experiences as a teacher and nurse led me to pursue an education in the form of a PhD. The PhD was particularly in education, at which time I began my research work. So my research work at the time and thereafter, shortly thereafter, mainly focused on nursing education, which involved simulation and simulated-based milieus. And then those teaching experiences and the research experiences with simulation led to further examine how tools or methods can impact or enhance or contribute to developing clinical judgment. This further led to my current work, which is geared at understanding and examining professional competence to prepare students for the workplace. And here I am now, continuing that work through various innovations.
What are your main research interests and why?
So my main research interests, to start with where they stem from or what they're underpinned by. So they stem from my beliefs and values and lived experiences, which motivate me to do the work that I do. My scholarship, teaching, and service are firmly rooted in my philosophical perspectives on teaching and learning, which include a learner-centered approach, reflective practice, and experiential and transformative learning. So using this framework informs my research interest in exploring experiential education, which includes I work with simulation, an array of simulation-based methods, and I study how experiential education can afford teaching through the use of SPs or simulated persons, virtual reality, and e-learning methods, such as the use of artificial intelligence, both in education, in post-secondary education, and in education of professionals in general.
So what are the major contributions that you've provided in your area of interest?
Okay. So the contributions initially were through my PhD work, which was looking at, exploring, examining how nurses understand and experience clinical judgment. The work that was sort of evolved for my dissertation led to the concepts of reflection beyond action and intercultural fluency, which are terms that I coined as a result of the findings from my dissertation, which I currently embed in my current program of research. These concepts both support and are aligned with the research that I do, which is deeply infused again within the conceptual theoretical frameworks of reflective practice, transformative education, and it also informs my vision to create innovative pedagogical approaches within higher education to support learners' professional competence and transition into the workplace. So my program of research has developed over the years, specifically focused on exploring EE approaches or experiential education approaches to both foster student success and engage students in active learning, leading to this notion of developing a level of professional competence. My research work began with internationally educated nurses, exploring how they both understand and experience clinical judgment within simulated-based environments to support a transition in the Ontario workforce. This work led to investigating interactive ways to engage internationally educated nurses in preparing for the NCLEX exam, which further led to, it's a ripple effect to a program of research that currently, the currently and most recent work exploring pedagogies associated with simulated-based environments. As I mentioned earlier, SPs, VR, e-learning to promote professional competence, and I hope to apply findings within the context of interprofessional practices ongoing. And recently, I've founded and developed, and I'm currently the director of the SPM Lab, or Simulated Person Methodology Lab, which is a pan-university program which caters to faculty, staff, and students, of course, at York University to use and infuse SPs, or SPM, Simulated Person Methodology, as an approach to enhance engagement and as experiential education tool to enhance pedagogical context in general. And we are supported by the AVP Teaching Learning, the Teaching Commons at the university. And this initiative was initially funded through an internal funding, a grant that has supported its growth and evolvement to date.
So how has nursing changed the way the research area is understood?
So nursing has changed the way the research area is understood through having an appreciation for lived experience of people and students, and the ability to translate that research into ways to inform nursing education and curriculum development and design. Nursing has changed the way that I perceive the meaning behind education and practice through innovative pedagogies. And has also, nursing has influenced how I understand human experience and the need to provide an environment which embraces a sense of a greater autonomy on the part of the learner, interdependence between the student and teacher, and mutual respect. The fundamental component is that educators actively engage students to become professionally competent. So what that looks like, fostering approaches that are relational and generative, respecting the lived experiences of the student, which we do through various methods and approaches, and to reinforce the need for lifelong learning, of course, which is also aligned with nursing and how that informs this research lens, including the capabilities for problem solving, reflection, decision making, the use of technology, information literacy, and the use of deductive and inductive reasoning. And the focus, of course, for evaluation always centers around the learner and their overall experience. And formal to enhance the meaning to professional competence, which requires communication skills, empathy, dedication to serving others, good judgment, technical skills. So these are all sort of interweaved and embedded and infused within that research lens.
So I speak for my classmates when I say that I really enjoyed your simulation in our labs for 1543. So could you tell me more about your interest in SPs and how you could use that in future teaching?
Yes, so using SPs or SP methodology is one way to engage students in this context of experiential education. So that is the reason as to why I've embedded this in the courses that I teach, and thank you for the compliment. I do appreciate the feedback. So my interest in SPs has stemmed from, again, the course of how my research has evolved and unfolded, and I feel that this methodology caters to a variety of skills, soft skills that are required to develop professional competence. So we're studying, we're researching the use of SP methodology. We know that it's effective in medical education and nursing education, and we've seen the effect in the courses that you've taken and how it's applied. But more so, we are trying to infuse and introduce this methodology across disciplines and departments. So currently our research or our SPM lab is looking at how SPs are used within professional and interprofessional context, including social work, education, engineering, law, business, information science, and so forth. And so how I plan to use it in teaching settings in the future. I plan to use it in the same way that I'm using it now, but enhancing it to involve multidisciplinary potential or opportunities. So for example, in a nursing context, we could infuse other disciplines, social workers or psychologists, other disciplines that work aside nurses in the workplace. So how do we engage students in those contexts to prepare them for that experience?
Students are always on the lookout for role models or mentors. Are there any resources that you would like for them to know that they can look up?
Mentors, so it depends what the interest is, right? So within the context of nursing education or nursing research, there are various faculty members doing research in our faculty. So there's interest in specific topics or areas. I would encourage you to look up at the Faculty of Health faculty list of those who are doing research and see what areas most interest you, or a student or anyone who's interested in joining the research community. So the Faculty of Health website, we have different labs on campus as well that produce research and knowledge translation outputs and so forth. So that could be an area where students can access and see if there's potential for collaboration. and finding more about research and plans and activities and so forth. There's other departments on campus, including the Teaching Commons, the Learning Commons. There's the Faculty of Health has a research office that can potentially match or allow that matching to happen between students and mentors or faculty doing certain research projects that may be within the realm of interest of the student. We have an associate dean of research who may be able to support that as well. We have an associate dean of teaching and learning. So depending on where the research interests sort of lie, those people may be of use or support that process. And the York University website in general has lots of potential for that as well. There's also other areas outside of the university, so Sigma Theta Tau. There's different nursing associations that you can look up or collaborate with and seek mentorship potentially to do some research work.
What advice would you give to nursing students who want to get into research?
So I'd say the first thing is to have an idea about what inspires you and what you want to learn more about. So what is it that you are interested in within a research program or from a research lens? Is it a specific topic that you're interested in? Is it a specific method, the way the researcher is conducting the methodology behind the research that they're doing or within the research that they're doing that you want to familiarize yourself with? Do you want to be involved in collecting data or now analyzing data, the statistical component of the research? Is there interest to do literature reviews, scoping reviews, systematic reviews? Is it that experience that you want to be exposed to? So I guess sort of sharpen that idea of what drives you and why do you want to get into research. I think that's foremost. I think that's important to sort of reflect on and realize for yourself. The other thing to reflect about is why you want to get into research is what are the short and long-term goals. So what in the short term that you want to accomplish and how is that going to contribute or evolve or unfold into long-term goals. So is it something to support you as you're applying? Do you have to grad school? Do you have aspirations to go to grad school or med school or anywhere that would benefit or in the future from the research work that you're exposed to that you'd like to do? And the other thing that I would suggest and advise is to find a mentor or someone that can guide you through the process.
Final question is, what are opportunities for second entry and collab students who are interested in research?
So I think I've touched on that a little bit in your previous question. So there are many opportunities to learn and work with researchers, both on campus and outside campus. Again, it depends on the area of interest that you seek. So our lab, for example, the SPM lab caters to different areas, not only research but also the practical components. So depending on what what is it that you want to learn more about with the behind the scenes process? Do you want to work as part of in a lab? Do you want to do literature reviews? What is it that interests you as far as getting into a research context? And so seek resources on campus. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a research office that can support with that process. And there's also agencies outside of the university that can support with the research elements. Maybe through nursing association or other student associations that have partnerships with researchers and collaborators that may be of use some potential for students to begin some research work. I would also suggest to, if there's a particular professor or teacher or instructor that has sort of sparked your interest in a course about a certain research topic, then you could approach that person, because they would have their own research program with their own own team of people that they can sort of guide you to collaborate with, right? So, for example, the work that we do with virtual reality, artificial intelligence, e-learning, simulated person methodology. So if you had an interest, for example, in e-learning or artificial intelligence, you could potentially work with somebody at Teaching Commons, a postdoc at Teaching Commons around e-learning, or with an engineering postdoc, doing work with artificial intelligence. So that prof could potentially, gear you to the right directions. Where is it that the interest sparks?
Thank you, Dr. Peisachovich, for taking some time off your day to explain to myself and my classmates about the world of research, your insights, your wisdom. We really appreciate it. Thank you.